And we are live. What's happening? Benton here. How is everybody? Well, I don't think anybody's here yet. It's about 10 after 4 a.m. Central Time as I leave the company repair shop in Chicago, actually Romeoville. And I'm in my little car. It's loaded up with all my belongings. And I don't know that I'm done with this company, and today is payday. With this 1099, I did not quite realize that this was as involved as it is. I guess these companies, or at least this company, won't allow me to get paid on a 1099 as a private individual, which is probably, you know, something they've learned from experience, because I'm sure there's drivers, and maybe I would be one who would just try to get away with not, paying the income tax, and then at some point the government might come after them and trying to garnish the wages, and probably a headache and a hassle that the people who work for these companies just don't need in their lives, I'm assuming. That would be my guess. I don't know. And then shout out to Highly Suspect with the status, the My Status Select website. And that's the title of the video is Status. And realizing that for me, uh, if I just go ahead and form a corporation, the company apparently wants me to. I guess a lot of these, I guess most of the 1099 drivers have their own corporation in the form of a sole proprietorship or an S corp or whatever. It's not something I know a lot about. I guess my knowledge would be surface level only. But then we talk about this so-called corporate slavery and all of this, and then Benton possibly, literally forming a corporation, just willy nilly. I think I would prefer to, educate myself and fill my head with knowledge before going off and just, uh, following whatever the steps are to form a corporation. I'm assuming it would be a sole proprietorship. Mm. And it may be well be what I end up doing in the long run or in the near term. I just prefer not to go into that willy nilly, as it were. Anybody? Let's see if anybody in the house. I see some comments. What's up to Roy Duggan? Good to see you. Rob in the house. What's happening? Happy rising. Yep. And the whole truther tribe. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, the truthers. So I put the truck in the shop Monday, and then there was a miscommunication. Of course, today's Friday. Um, and see, a lot of times, I guess I seem like I'm intelligent, or maybe I think part of this is my know-it-all vibes. I come across, I tend to communicate as if I already know things. But the reality is, I was very ignorant, and this is my first experience with the in Chicago, 1099 white Volvo companies is sort of a cliche, or it's definitely a cliche in the over the road, truck driving world, and known for their shadiness. Uh, this one doesn't seem to be shady. This company I've been contracted with, I guess would be the way to put it. Um, but apparently, I don't know if these drivers are making big money. Maybe these guys are all grinding their asses off and taking every, tax advantage through the corporate structure and making big money. But apparently, most of these guys, if they have to take home time or put the truck in the shop, they fly, back to where they're from. And after since the advent of the fake pandemic, I probably will never get on a plane again. And apparently, there's just nobody that drives their own car and just shows up at the orientation. So I was already sort of on the back foot, and then there's no, this is the first company I've ever run into with no yard. As far as all the other trucking companies I've experienced, there's a terminal or a yard where the driver could leave their personal vehicle, their car. And so, and then the truck, because people don't want to work, right? Or maybe even these, I guess these mechanics have such an advantage over the company. They, if they don't feel like coming in on time, or and then they all leave right at 5 o'clock, and goof off half the day. So the truck's not even finished. It's not even fixed yet. So Monday they didn't even look at it because they thought I was just flying back to my home. And as much as I tell people, well, I don't really have a home and I live in the truck, I don't think it never really seems to sink in, which I guess that's not really their fault, but I'm the one that's the strange oddball weirdo, right? So I just slept in the truck at the repair shop. They, pulled the truck out outside the shop every night. I just slept in the truck. And so it was supposed to be done yesterday, and then I was going to sleep in the truck, which I did last night, and then get a load this morning and go back to driving. Um, and then last time Monday when I went into the office, they told me, one of the ladies that works in the office said that I had to, asking me about my corporation and all this, because apparently the whoever is in charge of that aspect of the business will apparently only allow somebody to be paid just as a private individual for like 4 paychecks. And this was I think today's either my third or my fourth. I don't remember. I think it's my third. So, and then we look at, if I, depending on when my delivery is Monday, I could possibly like not even get a paycheck, for my fourth paycheck, and then they'll be on my ass, to get me to do this corporation, uh, which again I might very well do, but I want to understand it and really know what I'm getting into before I. And especially, it's kind of funny since I'm in these circles now where so many of these discussions are taking place, around the American national, or not having a driver's license, and then if I wanted to do some sort of, because it sounds like Highly Suspect actually gave up his U.S. citizenship, which that used to be something that it seems like most of us just assumed was a good thing, to be a U.S. citizen. It was certainly promoted that way, or has been promoted that way, but is that even something desirable? So needing to increase my knowledge about these topics, and then also realizing that what might be the easiest and the most convenient for me in the short term might just be to just go along with whatever. But it seems like the system, the B system, probably that's where it gets a lot of its power, right? Is people just going along with whatever. And we saw it during the fake pandemic, everybody just going along with whatever. And now I saw a poker video. Doug Polk is, I think, the best poker, YouTuber for poker content. And, apparently now it's becoming controversial because some of the World Series of Poker is going on, and some of these players are, wearing the biggest mask possible. They've got a hoodie on and sunglasses, and you can't even really tell who they are, much less read any of their facial expressions. But it seems like society has fully adapted to the mask. So now Doug is starting to catch a little bit of shit, from some of the commenters, just based on, almost like he's being prejudiced, or almost like he's bullying these people who want to cover their faces, right? It's all very strange. Meanwhile, and then a lot of people in the comments really believe that the mask will keep them from getting sick. They really believe it will keep them from, transmitting the germs. And other people in the comments saying, well, the masks don't work anyway. I mean, what a fucking mess, dude. And meanwhile, I think it was main event or World Series before last, a person had to prove they were jabbed to even play in the tournaments. Uh, from what I understand, and then if they failed a COVID test, uh, they would be removed from the tournament, whatever tournament they had paid for. It just makes no sense. It's just all very bizarre. And I didn't really want to get off on a COVID rant, but as I try to escape Chicago, now we're in a construction zone. And I was complaining about the mechanics at the shop, but I'm sure they're all great people. But is it even really their fault that they're not showing up to work and just busting their asses? In this modern system, I mean, can you blame them realistically? The company, I suppose, could hire more mechanics. I don't know. And we're stopping. What in the fuck? Well, let's see if we can check in with the chat here. Shout out to 13 in the house. Lucky number 13. What's up, Ginger Ridge? Good to see you. Oh, we talking about smoke from the wildfires? Yeah, and increasingly, I'm realizing that most of the population, uh, if something, whatever their actions in the real world are, is not based on does this make logical sense. I mean, I know that sounds, it's almost like a well, duh, or just sounds insane, but especially watching these, I've been watching a lot of these Nigerian scammer videos, these romance scams. There's a channel that works with a lot of these. It's mostly ladies, the ones I watch, but there's definitely men who get involved with the scams as well. But you know, how in what world does it make sense that hey, I'm this is the type of scams that they fall for is like somebody's on works on an oil rig. Some handsome buff guy, works on an oil rig. The oil rig explodes, and then their expensive tools and equipment get destroyed, and now they need $40,000 for new equipment. So could you send me some Steam gift card? Or well, first it's Bitcoin. But whatever combination it is. But at some point it's like, hey, I need to pay this fee to enter this country, or I'm being extorted or whatever in some third world shithole because I'm some engineer contractor in Afghanistan. So send me some Google Play card. And then, so as we're thinking about this, it's like, who would fall for this? Well, it's not even, has nothing to do with intelligence. Most of the people just do whatever they're told or whatever the system promotes. So if they really believe that they've met some handsome man, you know, who works overseas, and that guy's like, hey, I can't leave the country until I pay this fee, so I need you to send me some Google Play gift cards. They don't even question it. It's just like, okay, well, this is what I was told to do. So the more I'm understanding and accepting that this is how most folks are, it's just how they are. My life has improved. I must say, I'm not nearly as frustrated and just beside myself and pulling out my hair. Right. This is just what it is, man. Yeah. Oh yeah. Steam gift cards, Google Play gift. Dude, some of these women keep them and keep all they keep all the cards and all the receipts. Like some of these women have just like, dude, this one lady, I swear she had almost 100,000. It seemed like she had to have had like tens of thousands of dollars worth of gift cards. Not even kidding. Just completely fucking bananas. And then like this one lady, like the apparently the most you can put into a Bitcoin ATM or because a lot of these ladies are going to the Bitcoin ATM every day because you can. It's like 2,500 a day. Dude, this one lady sent $2,500 like 80 days in a row. Yeah, and I don't even. I feel no sympathy for these people whatsoever. And then their attitude afterwards is just like, well, it could happen to anyone. Like something needs to be done. And then just now some of them are working. They're like elderly women, back to work and talking about getting 6 bills every day and all of this, because they've run out all their credit cards or whatever, and they're just like, oh well, this is just my life, and I'm gonna have to deal. Like they just take it all in stride. I cannot relate to that mentality. Just like, oh well, this is just how things turned out. And I understand, the people being on psych meds and SSRIs and all of these drugs certainly has something to do with it, I'm sure. But yeah, this is a drawback of driving this early in the morning. The all the construction is still being done. Slow moving. Hang on, I'm having to shift gears a bunch, so fucking up the broadcast. Yep. Yeah. Well, and it is hilarious on some level, but Rob, but then when I'm listening to like there's so many of these videos that are it's basically a formula. The video is done like in a formula style, more or less, and then some of these women they have like audio recordings of the scammer, like talking sweet to them, and it's obviously a man with a Nigerian accent, like obviously, and just and we talk about the all the AI and the videos and how the boomers just believe whatever they see, and some of the fake documents these ladies get sent, and the men too. I mean, it's not just like I say. I mostly watch the ones involving women. The men. The problem with the men is the men who go for this stuff are some of the worst people you could ever imagine. Most of these ladies are actually seem like decent people, believe it or not. What's up, Christos? Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm glad, dude. Yeah. Yeah, the Indian call center stuff. The most of the ones I've seen about those are when people wait to get contacted, and or they it's a lot of pop-up scams on your computer or whatever. Uh, a lot of that is people fucking with the call center people themselves, because this is almost even more diabolical. Just because they're delving into the psychologies, because they're having these very frank discussions with these ladies, man. And I'm doing my pattern recognition, and I understand enough psychology, so I'm taking in a lot of information and just sort of mulling it over, over time. I'm learning a lot about just more and more. I'm really seeing how people's just I would say it's at this point, it's more or less 65% of people just they follow the herd. They just sort of go with the flow. You know, if someone, if they perceive someone, if someone tries to trick them and they really believe the person, they just do whatever the person tells me. Hey, you know, I I'm trying to travel from Afghanistan to whatever country, and I got off the plane, and now customs is telling me that because of I have some type of item in my baggage that I have to pay a $1,700 fee. So literally, the solution is send me Steam gift card. So that clearly doesn't make any sense. Like, does the does this do these people accept Steam gift cards to pay a $1,700 fee because I had the wrong type of item in my baggage? Like, it makes no sense. So clearly logic has nothing to do with it. Or that doesn't even enter into the picture. But I think some of us, especially those of us in these type of communities, I think a lot of us, we always want to go back to the logic, like, well, this doesn't even make any sense. So I think we just, and I can't speak for us, but it seems like a lot of us have whatever us is, in that context, people attracted to these, types of circles. I think our brains just shut off at that point. It's like, well, okay, does not compute. Error does not compute. So we don't continue on any further. But part of me is like, I just got to get to the bottom of this. Like, when I'm seeing video after video after video where this same fucking nonsense is working, and these people are literally just more or less transferring their life savings to Nigerian scammers. And meanwhile, I've been on the internet since '94. I remember, you know, Nigerian scams back to probably the late '90s, and just remember thinking like, who would fall for this? And it's still going on. Ginger Ridge pulled over for the last text, but not this one. Yeah, texting and driving. Well, I'm in construction zone hell. It's just construction zone after construction zone after construction zone. I probably should have considered a different route, actually, because I actually knew this was going to probably be the case. If I think I'm going to cruise the open road and do a broadcast, that's not necessarily the case. One lane open. So bear with me while we. Hopefully this one ends soon. And it's like, why? I don't understand why people can't just pick a speed and drive that speed. Why do we have to speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down through 5 miles of construction zone? Also don't understand that. Oh, well, something I can talk about easily without a lot of concentration is I won close to $1,300 playing poker in Chicago. So that was pretty cool. My eyesight was so bad, I wanted to play Pot Limit Omaha, but dude, it's so hard to look at my 4 cards without showing them to everybody else at the table because my eyesight's got so bad that, yep. Speed up, slow down. We I don't even, it doesn't even matter. This is just hilarious. So what's happening here? I'm just going to stay in 4th gear, deal with it. But playing, yeah, 2-5 no limit hold'em. In the morning, I got in there like first thing in the morning, which usually that's when the tight, boring players, the very, the guys who are just all waiting for good hands, So that's actually a pretty wild, fairly wild game going on. I just wandered in at the proper time, so then I could be the person, waiting for the good cards, and then got just lucky enough to, and used a little, exhibited some skill, of course. So yeah, I won $1,300. So that was basically, you know, since I'm not going to get a paycheck next week, even if I had continued working, I might have gotten $500 next week, maybe, depending on if I manage to deliver on Monday and submit the paperwork in time for the cutoff. Hey, what's up? Burn Eye in the house. Good to see you, brother. Well, but see, and I'm not trying to be pedant. Well, I am being pedantic, but I'm not picking on you, Rob. It's not a lack of intelligence. I'm telling you, some of these people, like one of them was it's actually more emotional than logical. It's these are not, now some of them are dumb as fuck. That is true. Um, but one was like very highly educated, made like $250,000 a year. Um, it's actually intelligence doesn't even really enter into the picture. It's more of a delusion, I think, emotions and delusion, and then also what society's promoted. Because several of the women mentioned, not basically not wanting to date ugly old men, because if a woman's, once they enter a certain age, they really realistically they're just not able to. There's plenty of men who will date them, but there's not. And the more society's promoted the youth culture and all of this, and I've talked about on Andy Griffith, Aunt B was 50 years old and portrayed as an old woman, and nowadays like a 50-year-old woman is expected to you know more or less dress like she's 30 and still be in the sexual marketplace, right? So I feel sorry for a lot of these ladies, but then this, so I think for them it's this, but it's completely illogical, right? If we go by logic, there's no handsome, there's zero handsome 50-year-old men who are buff and work overseas as contractors earning hundreds of $1,000s a year who are on dating sites contacting 65-year-old women. That number is zero. Okay. So we're already starting from something that doesn't make any logical sense. So at that point, I would say the person's intelligence it's probably actually going to make it more likely that they get scammed. Only a few of these women have I recognized that they're just so dumb they would more or less just fall for anything. And in fact, like dumb people don't join cults. Like a person has to have some level of intelligence. I know it sounds insane, but that's, if you look at who doesn't ever fall for a cult, it's like people who are more or less have a retarded level IQ and mentally ill homeless people. And I remember like this, that Oregon cult where that guru, that Indian guru, if anybody remembers this, Netflix did a documentary series about it. Can't remember the name of it, but eventually this cult got so large they moved to Oregon, and like they started importing homeless people because they wanted to take over the local government, the local county government, because they didn't, they weren't getting, the cult wasn't getting along with the local, county officials. And so they imported all these homeless people from like Seattle and Portland or wherever. But none of those homeless people, the mentally ill drug addicts, they were happy to hang out on the compound and party and get drunk or whatever, but none of them actually like believed in the cult or joined the cult. You know, like those people cannot be brainwashed. You know, to some extent. Although I'm sure they can, but you know, not in those ways. And I think it is a brainwashing. Most of these ladies are the scammer is programming their psyches. You know, I think, and I actually back when I was getting drunk every day and playing online poker for fun, so sometimes I would go to the Bitcoin ATM, and I ran into a lady one time who was like, you know, had to wait for me to get done using the ATM because she was sending money to some scammer. Yeah, and just I don't, you know, I was pretty drunk, so I don't remember exactly what she was saying, but it's nuts, man. The whole thing's fucking nuts. I'm again it. Yeah, the poker. Then I went back the next day, and it was. I played for like an hour, but it was just like I said, like usually what you have at 8 a.m. Just a bunch of people sitting around waiting for good cards. Which I know how to play. I know how to counter that strategy, but the problem with that is that's a very involves a lot of variance. So I didn't want to get stuck there all day playing, because if I get stuck, you know, then I'm not going to want to leave down $500 or whatever. So I just left. Good problem to have, I suppose. What do y'all think? Yeah, again, these ladies, man, I feel sorry for them because there's just no, just like I say, society has promoted, and then especially with social media, like, you know, God, you know, these old women, they just can't. It's not really an option for them to just get with some ugly old man. You know, how's that going to play on social media, right? So then, and then some of them just by the end of it, they're just like crying, like saying more or less saying they don't want to be alone. You know, and now we're back to a frequent topic on this channel, which is the social isolation. And these, you know, I'm an actual hermit. I prefer to be by myself, so I don't, you know, I've never experienced loneliness. But you know, these old ladies, man, they ain't got nobody. It's sad, and I'm certainly not signing up to give them any company. So I don't know. Maybe some of them, it's worth it to them to transfer $85,000 to some Nigerian scammer who at least, you know, talks to them over the metaverse for 5 years, right? And they, even though they probably deep down know that's not who they're really talking to. But some of them, man, dude, these boomers, like they never understand. Like what happens is sometimes, so the scammer, you know, creates these fake profiles using somebody else's pictures, obviously, which a lot of times ends up being a gay man for some reason. I guess old women go for, they don't know that they're gay men, but I guess that's who the scammers use to attract to lure these women a lot of times. But hang on, they're slow merging me. All right, here we go. Get some fuel pretty soon. So sometimes what the channel does is they actually, so some of these people on social media, their pictures get stolen so much that they've eventually somebody loses their life savings and then figures out, oh, their family figures out, oh, they find the real person. So some of these people, their pictures have been used so many times. So in some of the videos, you know, whatever the people that run the channel, you know, there's like a whole crack team of investigators, right? So sometimes they contact whoever the picture is of, and then they get on a voice chat, you know, like a video chat with the person who's lost their life savings, the old woman in this case, and then the actual human being like from the pictures, you know, which is just, it's hilarious because it's like total confusion. And some of these women, even though they are somewhat intelligent, I'm telling you, women and men of a certain age, if somebody contacts them over the metaverse and makes a profile using somebody's pictures, they believe they're talking to that person across the board. So then later on, even if here's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. So like a part of their brain understands that they're not talking to that person, but they never seem to get to the point where they understand, no, you've been talking to a man in Nigeria who was using those pictures. It's like they never get to that point, most of them. It's just fucking bizarre, man. So some of them, and I guess I'm just going to have to play some of these videos and respond to them. That's really going to be the only way, because now I'm getting into some specifics where I'm not really going to be able to convey my ideas. But dude, it's, oh my God, endlessly fascinating. What do y'all think? Yeah, endlessly fascinating. Oh, I'm glad. Ginger Ridge says Ginger Ridge is driving, and my tips on psychology of driving have helped. Well, thank you. Yes, much appreciated. I mean, what else do I have to do with my time? Of course, I do kind of feel bad because the company, as far as the company knows, I'm going to work later today. Uh, Although I am a little miffed about taking so long to get the truck repaired, but I sort of expect it. And I must say, everybody that I've talked to at the company, they're all very nice people. Um, Unfortunately, I'm a fucking asshole who LARPs. You know, I have this glib, side of my personality where I come across like I'm very friendly and affable, but that's not really it's not my actual personality, unfortunately. But I am agreeable to some extent. It's very bizarre to be Benton, I must say, as I go third person. But um, oh, $4.50 in Chicago for gasoline. By the way, what the fuck, man? I mean, I knew it was high, but it's just, hey, you live in a big city, so we're just going to charge you more, and you'll pay it and like it. But uh, and the car thing was not a deal breaker. It's just very inconvenient. But generally, I stay out on the road so long, it really doesn't matter, and I'm not worried about the car getting broken into or whatever. If that could happen anywhere, because I guess they were just going to let me leave it at the office until unless the property owner eventually figured out and told them not to. But so today I was going to have to drive the car to the office and then Uber back to the truck, which is not that big of a deal. But then it's just the hanging around without having anywhere to go. The living in the truck thing. Realistically, what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to do more research. I'm probably going to have to go W-2. I'm going to have to go with probably a bigger company, but then I'm going to have more. I'm going to have more inconveniences. A lot of these bigger companies have, driver-facing cameras, which it's not that big of a deal. Although some of them are very like, if you even, because I can just mount the phone in the truck, and then I don't really text. I just touch it just enough to find something to listen to, right? Surely I could just program. I could probably on my off time find a bunch of videos to listen to and just do a playlist. Um, some of these companies are pretty hardcore on firing drivers over use, which they should really, if you think about it. We don't, realistically, I don't think we need people. Um, and you look, almost everybody interacts with their phone to some extent while they're driving. I would say just as long as the driver does the hands free, you know, I personally wouldn't be too strict beyond that. So one of the companies I worked for did loaner trucks. They would put me in a loaner. So, with the way I do it, I really just need to pick a company that where I can park my car, secured parking, in a gated, controlled access lot, and then, go out on the road for months at a time. Then when the truck needs repairs, drive it to the terminal, right? And then, take however much time off, which is, for me, is usually only a couple of days. Because when I'm in truck driving mode, I just want to stay in the truck and drive every day. I get in a mode, I just want to stay in that mode. So there's been times when I was like, okay, I'm going to take a week off, right? But then by like the third day, I'm just ready to go back to work. And which the company's happy to let me go back to work. So I need to just be able to drop the tractor off at the yard, take all my stuff out of the truck, put it in my car, fuck off to a motel or whatever, or take all of my things out of the tractor, put it in a loaner tractor, hit the road, then come back like a week later, move all my things back into my tractor, which is now fixed, right? This thing where it's like, okay, now I'm just sort of in limbo because I don't have or want a home to go back to. And then, yeah, I do have loved ones who would be happy to see me, except, it's kind of I'm a little miffed that I grew up in a fairly affluent family, somewhat well-to-do by Arkansas standards. I grew up in a, 2-story home where I had every three kids. We all had our own bedrooms, 5 acres. But then, over time, my bozo parents, and I think society's gone this way to some extent. So my mom now, with her health problems and whatever's going on with her mentally, and she's had this hip replacement. So there's physically no room for me to go hang out at their house, man. And so at one point, my parents had a big, nice house on the lake in a resort town in Arkansas where there was basically like a guest quarters where I would have my own room and my own bathroom like while I was there, so I could just sort of do my own thing without disturbing my parents, right? But now it's like my mom is married to this guy who I don't really get along with. He doesn't get along with me. We've just sort of, it's the guy who pulled the gun on me while he was drunk, by the way, and who no longer drinks, and that's almost worse, right? What's worse than a drunk? Well, a dry drunk, realistically. That's what's worse, I would say. And I know I'm rambling, but I'm the best king of the ramblers. That's what I'm anointing myself king of the ramblers. How about that? As much as I'm able to focus. This is my therapy session to some extent, so thanks, therapists. Y'all didn't know you were my therapist, did you? What's up? Always good to see Slow Boy Whiteboard in the house. Gets their insurance, gets their insurance off the hook. Well, I think what happened, and I'll tell you, here's what, and I'll transition off to that topic, off of my parents, and I'll get back onto that hopefully. Because in some of my topics, it comes down to, I'm not Dr. Spock. I'm not Mr. Spock from Star Trek. A lot of what I talk about is things that annoy me, and I am a very emotional person, and then I do allow these resentments to build up to some extent, and then I end up just venting them all, on these broadcasts to some extent. But so I think what happened with these companies is, and I think it's something that's happened in society in general, is people have just checked out, right, for the most part. So I think in the old days, there was more vetting of a potential driver going into a company, right? So I think what's happened over time is the company just expects, okay, the people who don't who the people who are going to work W-2 are just going to work W-2. So the people who will consider a 1099 probably, have a network of friends of other drivers. It is kind of unusual that I'm just this hermit bozo, and I'm not really, I don't really have a network of friends. The only other driver I know is Big L. Shout out to Dallas Don Juan, and he's W-2. So, and then I seem like I'm intelligent probably, and I do come across as a know-it-all. So, and then the recruiter, all the recruiter really cares about is, do I meet the qualifications, and will I travel to the orientation, right? So there's sort of a system in place where somebody like me can fall through the cracks. But I think you're right, Slow Boy. And it makes sense that the company wants contractors, but then I think it makes sense that a lot of the drivers, you know, if a driver like me, I don't want company paid for health care. Like, I don't want all of these. I don't want paid for, but I don't care about any of these things. I just want my fucking money, right? And then, I think these more astute drivers, it probably is to their advantage to run their own business, right? Even though they're really, even though they're operating, somebody else's equipment. I think it makes more sense. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, Big L is a straight G move, indeed. Uh, they do drug tests, and that's industry wide. I'm in a federal database for drug testing. There's a clearinghouse. So whenever I get hired, I have to go into the database, and I have to allow the new company to access my records. Um, and then I'm also subject to random drug tests. So yeah, yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, definitely. It's just cheaper for the company, obviously, because a company that does W-2, and this is any employer, they match some of the taxes, like the FICA and the Social Security and all of that. Like, whatever I pay in for Social Security, the employer has to match some of that. That's my impression, right? And they've actually changed the W-2. They've changed the way the withholding operates. This is how the beast system becomes more diabolical over time. So when I first went into truck driving, um, number one, I was a Texas resident, so no state income tax. My home state of Arkansas charges I think it's 7% state income tax, and then whatever the federal is. So under the old withholding system, I could just claim a bunch of bullshit deductions, right? Like, I could claim I had 10 deductions or whatever. And since I don't file an income tax return, it really doesn't fucking matter, right? Because it's not really going to be verified. Now, my understanding of the IRS is what they do is, for somebody like me who doesn't own anything and just doesn't file, but who still actually works a job some of the time. Although most years I haven't even made enough money for it even really to matter. And I don't really since I don't maintain a residence, it is difficult for them to track me down, so much so that, and this is how much, I'm not really this is how much I live outside the normal system anyway. Like, I had student loans from the mid 90s that never caught up to me until my first truck driving job in 2018. They started garnishing my wages. And I think I paid most of that off. I'm pretty sure I paid almost all of it off through the garnishing of my wages. But so even when I was W-2, they were taxing me every week, but I was keeping most of my money. Versus when I started with this last company, they had, gone to this new withholding system where you actually, instead of claiming a number of deductions, you tell them a number to withhold. I think it's by a month or whatever. And the way it works out, they end up taking way more withholding out of each check, right? So, my gross a lot of weeks was like almost $2,000, but then, or 1,800, but then on my check it's like I'm getting like 1,100 bucks, man. It's just not enough money for what I'm doing. It's not enough money. But then on the 1099, I'm actually working less, and I think this check is like $1,400, and I don't think I even drove 2,500 miles, but then at some point the government's going to want some of that $1,400, right? So I realistically, if I'm going to do 1099, I need to have all my ducks in a row. I just was so ignorant. I thought I could just show up and then they would just pay me as a private individual and just let me worry about the tax liability, which probably I would have hemmed and hawed for a few months and then got off my ass and figured out how to just remit whatever money to the government every quarter and then still not file. And then the government just more or less saying, well, fuck, you paid us, so who cares? Because the way I understand it is if I don't file, they just they do an estimate of what they think my return's going to look like, and then they sort of go based off of that. So they're doing that anyway. So when I say I don't file, well, I kind of do file because the government more or less files for me. That's my understanding of it anyway. Cruise in, and I guess we'll go ahead and pop off the tank here in Morris, Illinois at the Loves, where it's the first $3 and something fuel I've seen since I left Chicago. And then I stopped here for the Amazon locker. Oh, and I ordered a couple of things to Amazon locker, which I'm not in Chicago, which I'm not going to pick up. But after 3 days, the items will get returned to Amazon. I'll get a refund. No big deal there. So bear with me while I try to multitask. Still do the broadcast. I got to remind myself I'm in my car. Sometimes I accidentally drive go in the truck entrance. Forget I'm in my car. And knock on wood, man, I'm pretty happy with this car purchase, I must say. Although I do need a set of tires. The tires are not doing good in the rain. But, yeah, oil change and alignment and a set of tires in my future. Need to do that while I'm between jobs. Although technically, who knows? I might just say, hey, I really want to figure this all this corporate stuff out, and I'll holler at you when I'm ready. They might just say, all right, fine with us. Who knows? I don't know. Hang on. Bring your paper to school. Man, I like these chilly nights. It's been chilly up here in the Midwest. Well, chilly by my standards, anyway. I don't know how many people are working here. Guys out there smoking. Huh. I'm disconnected. 7, please. Thanks, sir. No, I will need some change here shortly. Hello. I may have broke up. I wandered away. I thought I was on the hotspot. I left the hotspot in the car and wandered in the store. Yo, yo, yo. Hello, hello. Am I here? Can you hear me? It's not letting me highlight the comments. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, indeed, broadcasting excellence. Well, what happened was I wandered into the store to pay for my fuel, and I forgot that I was on my hotspot. So my apologies. I guess I just assumed that my phone would keep working. So my bad, Thunder Chicken. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, will you be my friend, or do I need to hurt you? Nice. These people, I see people leaving, but they should know by now that if I have technical difficulties, I'm usually not gone for long. But I understand. I get it. Like, why is there only one person working here too? That doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. It's freaking bozos. Yep, indeed. You remember how to do that? Yeah. Well, they have to do something. Change on pump 7, please. Oh, you can get me wherever you want to, sir. As long as I get my get my money and get out of here. That red X on the 340 real quick. They want to know if you want to give it away. You can hit it. You're right there. There we go. Yeah, just another wonderful experience here at a truck stop in America. Being bossed around and given orders by the help. Y'all, that ever happened to y'all? Bizarre. Quite bizarre. All right, hang on. I'll be right back. All right. Am I back? I think I am. I think I'm back. Had to use the restroom real quick. Yeah, I think Moose is in Maine, I believe, if I remember correctly. Oh, and okay. Yeah, I knew you were. I realized that Moose was not in the same area all year round. Yeah, Winter's in. Yeah, I bet that's nice, man. That part of Mexico's always seemed interesting to me. Baja California, right? Yeah. Bought a business in the east. Go back in the winter. Yeah, maybe I should save up some money and go hang out in Mexico for like 6 months. Oh shit. Oh well. I was gonna check my fuel economy. I forgot to look at how many. Yeah, go back and look at how many gallons that was real quick. Do some quick math. People think these little cars are gas savers, but man, depending on the driving conditions, they don't always do that great. Let's see. Where was I? Pump 7. Yeah, hang on. Yeah, I didn't even get 30 miles a gallon. Ripping around. Most of that was driving around Chicago. Yeah, 29 miles a gallon. Oh shit. Phone flying. Made a turn and the phone went flying. I don't know where I am now. Hang on, let me see if I can find you. Motherfucker. Ah, god damn it. Technical difficulties. I think we're back. Thanks for hanging in there, folks. We're almost back on the road. Wow, yeah, dude. Now you're talking, Moose. Well, and since Mexico is a free country, unlike America, I could actually go down there and play internet poker. Although uh, I don't know that I'm good enough to make a living playing online poker, but I could at least do it for fun, right? Since Mexico is a free country, and Canada, it's only America. Well, and I understand there's ways around it, but I'm just mean as far as you know, being able to just play on with the rest of the world, right? Like a normal human being. All right. Thanks for stopping by, Moose. Yeah, 400 a month, man. That's my kind of price right there, buddy. Yeah, man. Yep. Yeah, there's some people who can work remotely. I've been looking at some of these. There's a lot of articles now about a lot of these workers who, worked in offices, and then because of the fake pandemic, they worked remotely, and then a lot of them don't want to go back to the office. But now a lot of these companies are realizing that it's causing a lot of problems. Yeah, some people's jobs are more or less, remote work jobs in the first place. Yeah, why live in some expensive ass city in the U.S.? There you go. Free camping on an island in Daytona, Florida. Well, I hate to be a one-upper Thunder Chicken, but I've probably done more free camping than anybody, or almost anybody. Done a lot of free camping, I'm sure. Most of mine was of the urban variety, however. Kayak with the dolphins. Moose was going to talk to Paul about getting some property south of the border, full-time broadcasting. Yeah, there you go. Do it yourself. Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. 2 years in a tent. There you go. Well, I do identify as a homeless person, just so you know. Just so you know. It's like I had the money to stay in a hotel, the last, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and last night. And I chose to just sleep in the truck. It's kind of easier, really, but, dragging all of my belongings into a hotel is no fun. Motels are a little better because at least you can park, near the park right outside your door, right? And I don't even know where I'm going here. I guess I'm driving down to St. Louis, and then I guess I'll either go back. I probably won't actually, but I might go to that motel I was staying in for 180 bucks a week. But there's nothing in that area, and it's only like 90 miles from my mom's house, but it's literally a 2.5 hour drive. That's how out in the middle of nowhere it is, like mountain roads. I need to go see my dad also, and I ended up starting this job so fast that I was scheduled to go see my mom before I left the area, and then that ended up not happening. And I haven't heard from her, so as far as I know, she's just in bed with the recovering from the hip replacement. So I need to go visit her. So I'm thinking about going to Conway. That's where I was. Uh, Me and my dad were staying down there. Trying to remember. I don't think I was doing any. I don't think I was trying to remember. I don't think I was live streaming back then. Huh. I know I was on the internet a lot last time I stayed there. I don't remember. That was when I was real sick, though. When I was had almost died. Well, thanks, Moose. I don't know that I understand how your mind works, but I certainly I've noticed some things that I feel like some other people miss. That's right. Well, yeah. There you go, Thunder Chicken. I ain't from here though. I do want to point that out. I'm not from whatever this place is. I'm not from here, but yeah, I am a big fan of the firmament itself. I do. I must admit a great deal of affection for the firmament. What's Paul up to? I see he's apparently. Well, I see he got a good microphone, which I do like because I could always tell he had a pretty good voice. But um, Of course, I know I don't sound too great on the Amazon earbuds here, the $10 earbuds, but uh, yeah, he certainly seems to have a bit of a radio voice to some extent. Doesn't sound like, not in a phony way, but just has a good sounding voice. So interesting to hear him on a better quality mic. Certainly. I guess he's indoors now. I haven't kept up really with what's going on there. Oh yeah, I like being outside. I've just never been like a wilderness guy. So when I talk to people about camping, they think like out in the wilderness. I'm like, no, it's like urban, like a patch of woods. Like most, unless one is in a large city, there's plenty of little patches of woods here and there to go pitch a tent in urban areas, urban and suburban areas. But yeah, I do like the mic. Yeah, sounds a lot better. Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah. Well, it's funny because it's like, but I think because you come across a certain type of way, I think they mistake that for weakness, and it's like, no. Once he's dug in, you could say whatever you want to him. It doesn't matter. He's just going to do what he's. But you know, some of that's probably the Leo thing too, right? But yeah, stubbornness. You don't come across that way, but I'm the type of person when I detect that stubbornness in somebody, I just know that that's how they are. And it's like some other people, it's like they never really figure it out. It's like, yeah, he'll listen to what you have to say, but that doesn't have anything to do with, he's still going to do what he's going to do. Like, but I think, people are that way to some extent also. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. Yeah, exactly. Overpower the panel. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I like some of those broadcasts I did on through OBS because when it got real crazy on the panels, since my audio was running separately, from the StreamYard audio, I could just talk and the panel couldn't hear me. I kind of enjoyed that, but it doesn't really work that well when there's not. The panel stuff seems to ebb and flow. It's like sometimes not that many people are joining. It's not like craziness where everybody's yelling at each other all the time. But yeah, when it gets really crazy, I really like being able to just sort of provide my commentary, but then not have the panel be able to hear me. Yeah, I was always a little surprised that Paul, because I guess he was just going through the built-in mic on his laptop. Is that what he was using? Well, see, and I think we have some similarities in this. See, this is how I think also, Moose. Again, that's probably back to some of the Leo stuff. He says I can be the biggest asset to anyone's team if they know how to utilize my abilities without disrespecting me. Yeah. Well, that's just. I mean, some of that is, you know, I agree with you. However, I've become more tolerant of people's nonsense, but I'm older and I'm just, you know, I can't really give you advice in that area. I think just when I was younger, I wouldn't tolerate anything. I wouldn't put up with anything when I was younger. Level of disrespect. But yeah, I hear you, Moose. Yeah. Good stuff. Moose getting some things off his chest here. Now, I thought I was having a therapy session. Now we're turning it. Now it's going to be Moose's therapy session. That's all right though. Get it all out, Moose. You know, here's how they say that where I'm from. They say get shed of it. Some of the colloquialisms, man. I just laugh when I hear some of these things. Yeah, get shed of it, Moose. Yeah, well, you don't owe me anything, Moose, but yeah, I like Mexico. Well, I've only ever really been to Tijuana, but I should say I like what I know of Mexico. The moose is loose. Well, yeah, and like Moose talking about, that he can be an asset to the team if people know how to work with him. Like, dude, I'm real friendly and affable and like very social, but what I find is it's a lot of people. It's difficult for them to understand that I want to hang out and be social, but then for like long periods of time, I'm just gonna go. I go off by myself and don't want to talk to anybody. It's just how I am. I've always been that way. Even as a young person with a lot of friends, I still spend a lot of time by myself. And I think a lot of folks, especially, there's a honeymoon phase, in real life, even if it's not in a romantic sense, but when if we meet somebody that we really like their personality, we sort of vibe with them, for a lot of folks, they can sort of just want more of that and more of that and more of that, and then my energy gets drained. Not, I'm not talking about Moose. I just mean in general. So I like being around people who uh, are accepting of, yeah, he'll come hang out, and I might be the type to travel to where the other person is, right? Because I don't have all of these encumbrances. I don't have a home, I don't have bills to pay really. Like I can just go places if I want to. But once I get there, I'm not gonna want to just hang out all day every day. Like I might want to hang out 2 days in a row, but then I'm probably gonna want to go fuck off and go do my own thing for a few days. So I've noticed some folks don't seem to be able to understand that, especially women if it's in a flirty or a romantic context, which I get. Where are we talking about? Is this in Mexico? Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is, and I've at one point I remember because my ex-wife number two had never been out west. She never really left Arkansas for the most part, and at one point she referred to some people as Mexicans, and I was like, those are Americans because we were in California, and it's like, yeah, they're speaking Spanish, but they've probably been, and even if they haven't been, regardless, they've been in this part of the fucking world for a very long time. Like, and it is called North America. And I wasn't lecturing her, but this is North America. Like these people are Americans, to some extent. And you get into like the corporate fiction, version of America, the all caps United States and the U.S. citizen. And I'm getting to where I don't want anything to do with that bullshit either, right? So yeah, it probably is. Parts of Mexico probably are like what the U.S. used to be. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm sure it's lovely, Moose. Yeah, I've heard good things. Pretty fucking hot in the summer, I'm assuming. But I can deal with regular heat, but when you get to that crazy 120 plus every day, I'm probably out. But I don't know if you're probably on the coast. I'm assuming, so maybe it's not so hot. Yeah, battery's draining. Yeah, we probably won't be live too much longer. I see I've got 35% battery here. Anybody got anything? Oh yeah, we already talked about that. Thunder Chicken. Is Z live? Z might be live. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Pacific Coast. Yeah, man, I love I just love, Oregon coast, all these areas in the States. California coast, of course. But, dude, the way things have changed, or I guess as more has been revealed about the people and, and the fake pandemic and just ever increasing tyranny, I just don't want to go out west. I've never really had a problem though. The officials have left me alone out west for the most part. I get fucked with everywhere, living out of a backpack, on foot or hitchhiking or whatever. But you get fucked with everywhere to some extent. But I don't know that I'll ever go back out that way, which is a shame. No, I think they're just probably just listening, taking it all in. You are a character, as you know. You're one of the you know major players in the personality politics of these so-called truth communities. So I would imagine they're taking it all in. Yeah, I knew you didn't mean the U.S., but I went U.S. just because I haven't been to the Pacific coast of Mexico. But yeah, I assume that's what you meant. And then I don't necessarily have a map of Mexico in my head. I've got like the broad strokes, but I don't. I've got a pretty good U.S. map in my head, but so I'm trying to like think about the map of Mexico. But yeah, yeah. Ensenada, I'm familiar with, not having been there, but yeah, Ensenada seems to be. I guess if you went into Mexico down the coast, if you left the U.S., that's pretty much like the first place. That's kind of, not close to the U.S., but that's like the first decently known place, right? Ensenada. Oh, dude, I love the country as far as the geography and some of the people, right? But other than that, no, man. The government, the state governments, the local governments, the county governments, the city government, the political structure, the corporate structure, the whole thing, man. No, I'm out. I'm out. Although I'm not out, I'm still in. But part of me's out. My heart ain't in it, man. Yeah, Moose, I would like to see some. Me personally, I can't speak for the rest of the community. You never know what'll get views, and it's hard to even get views really. But I like anything having to do with just talking about the area and showing the area a little bit. Maybe a little bit of the history, and maybe if there's been any sort of missing persons or true crime in the area. Yeah, 2 hours south of the border. Yep. I think Corolla, Adam Carolla's from Southern California. He said when he was a teenager, they'd go party down there a lot. They'd go down to Baja California and party. Well, in Tijuana too, obviously, but sometimes they'd go camping out down there. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What's the popular? Ensenada can't be that big. Aha. Yep. Driving. Yeah, a lot of folks are multitasking, which I do appreciate because I tend to listen to the content while I'm doing other things, right? So I remember when I was doing my podcast, I was annoyed because a lot of the audience was apparently listening while seated at their computer, right? Um, but I guess some of that was just the nature of the lockdowns. A lot of people being trapped in their homes to some extent. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is with me and content, it's like I don't know. On some level, if I'm interested in it, I know at least some people will be interested in it. But you know, probably not going to go viral, but then again, you never know. But I mean, it's kind of a cool thing to be, you know, on the coast in Baja California. To me, that's a cool thing. Maybe I'm the only one. Yeah, there you go. Yep, exactly. I do too. Normal people just telling stories. Yeah. And you know it's bad when I'm passing for normal, but I know what you mean by normal. Just an actual person, you know, an actual real person. And I think most of us share that in common. I think most of us are actual real people, not as what's up, Crumley? Oh, you're good, Moose. Yeah, we won't hold you to that. I'm a captive audience since I'm driving anyway. I'm just waiting for this my paycheck to hit. Waiting for my paycheck to hit the bank. Then I know I'm clear. At least they won't, and probably they wouldn't try to stop my paycheck anyway. But that's just me being overly paranoid and cautious to some extent. Which is not a bad thing. But I think it'll be fine. Just my dispatcher might be slightly annoyed because probably he's already found me a load for today. But the thing is, he could find me a load for today, and it's the part hasn't even showed up yet. The part was supposed to be here yesterday, and then they didn't get the. They could conceivably not get the part again today, and then, you know, then you're looking at the whole weekend. So I might as well get while the getting's good, right? And I am a little bit conflicted about the deal, but even if I work a couple, you know, realistically, I could probably string them along for like another month, but without doing the corporation thing. But eventually, they're going to put their feet down. I'm sure, put their foot down, and then we get into. It's just hard for me. My work day and my all the things I have to do for self care because of my health issues and getting proper rest. I just don't really have time left over for trying to do research and create a corporation while I'm also doing all those other things. What's up, Mr. Me? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely not normal. Although I guess I am in a way. Yep. I'm in my car today, Mr. Me. I left the truck. Truck's been in the shop all week, but I'm gonna go research, or I'm just gonna find a different job that's just a regular W-2. That's probably gonna be the way to go for me in the short term. And then in my off time, research all the 1099 and the corporation. Probably need to do all of that if I'm going to end up doing the American State National, like Highly Suspect was talking about. And then I saw, I noticed Drew said something about that, saying, because when I had a Highly Suspect on, and then Drew saying, yeah, you know, apparently you can file all this paperwork and it works. And Drew's like, well, yeah, it works for a time, but then eventually they're going to want their money. But then you get into, is it their money, right? Because, like, you know, at the end of the day, and I know this is a communist or a lefty point of view, but isn't my labor my property? Like, isn't that a real thing? Like, is the government just entitled to a portion of my blood, sweat, and tears just out of the gate? You know, I'm not sure that's true, right? And Drew just seems to be taking for granted that, yeah, this is what it is, full stop, you know. So I think this is where we get back to the Paul unslaved idea of being tricked out of position. Well, it seems to me if I really understand and I comprehend and I know exactly who and what I am, and then I correct the record and I do all of these things and I file whatever. And apparently the only reason I would even need to file any sort of paperwork is because I have allowed myself to be tricked out of position to some extent, although some of that occurred, you know, by my parents filing paperwork before I was even old enough to consent, before I'd even reached the majority age. But even certainly as an adult, I've signed paperwork, I'm sure, right? But then we get into, do I have to do I have to turn my driver's license in, and then do I then have to get a new driver's license that's held in trust, or do I need to or can I transfer my license? Like all of these various mechanisms, right? But see, I'm not the source of the complication. The human being is not the source of the complication. The system itself, the beast system, and the legalese, and all of the mechanisms in place to trick us out of our positions. That's what necessitates all of these different tracking of details and filing of paperwork and legal maneuverings, right? And I do happen to have the type of brain that can figure all of this out. Unfortunately for me, it's going to take me a lot of work, a lot of time and effort that I just really don't want to do, but I guess I need to. Yeah. There you go. There you go, Moose. Well, but realistically, the reality is, if I'm just a regular person and I work a job and I pay federal income tax, almost all of that money goes to pay the interest on the national debt. Literally goes to bankers who are already rich. And then some of it goes to like Social Security, which is being looted anyway. So it's not like it doesn't go to pay for things anyway, right? This idea that's and meanwhile, let's just say it is paying for society. Well, society's fucking falling apart. If we're talking about the roads and the buildings and the police forces and all of these, the military and all of these things, it's like none of this is really in good shape, is it? There you go. I agree, Mr. Me. Yeah, no piece of paper can separate us from the Creator. Yeah, Moose says we need you to pay for a 100-year-old bridge. Yeah, indeed. Well, yeah, it's of course it's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's a confidence game, and for whatever reason, people in mass still have confidence in the system. So there you go. Well, all right. Looks like the battery's going to die. Z might be live. I'm not even sure. I think I'm going to let y'all go. Appreciate everybody for being here. Thanks for listening to my ramblings. I declare myself king of the ramblers. Thanks for watching and listening and being here and commenting and interacting. Bye.